Hello, good morning. Happy August 13th, 2023. I wanted to exercise with Eckhart Tolle. He's an awesome speaker and I enjoy him. He's very famous around the world. His name is Eckhart Tolle. He's got this video called, let's see, The Power of the Present Moment.
Well, good to be here. And now,
So here we go. Let's exercise together.
on the screen that I have here, maybe it's a prompter, although I'm not going to read anything from it. It says the power of the present moment and meditation, so that's what I'm supposed to do with you. Now, this is not a meditation where you need to go because sometimes the moment one says meditation, everybody goes. You can't sit like that all the time, but it's always the present moment. So with the present moment meditation, it's something slightly different. It's an amazing thing, the present moment, usually overlooked. So the most amazing thing, I call it thing, of course it's not a thing, the most amazing thing in your life for most people in the normal state of consciousness, and normal means somewhat or very insane. In the normal state of consciousness, the present moment is usually overlooked habitually, unconsciously. People have been conditioned to overlook the most important thing there ever is, because your entire life consists of the present moment. There never has been anything else. Everything happened in the present moment, and when you remember it, it's the present moment. And when you think about the future, which of course never arrives as the future, it can only arrive as the present moment. But people live as if the present moment were undesirable or an obstacle, or they actively dislike it. And some people habitually live actively disliking the isness of the present moment. And that's their normal state of consciousness. Sometimes it's hidden. They smile. So when you become aware of the present moment, and sometimes people realize when I talk about it, all of you of course know this already, but there may be some tuning in through the media who don't know this yet. When you realize that that's all there ever is, your entire life consists of the now. It can only unfold in the now, which is now. Any emotion you feel, anything you think, anything that happens, any experience, it's all inseparable from the now. But the now to most people is an abstract thing and not interesting enough. So let's see what that means and let's make it into meditation. So let's call this our meditation this afternoon, the journey into the now. Usually when you talk about the now, then people, it's usually associated with, okay, the first thing that appears then in your awareness perhaps is your surroundings. And that's already a great step into the now. It's the first important step into the now to become aware of whatever surrounds you, the space that surrounds you, wherever you may be, and whatever takes place in that space. And you may notice when you become aware of those sense perceptions, because it's through sense perceptions that you become aware of whatever happens around you. That involves visual, auditory, and such, to some extent, the other senses too. The main ones being visual and seeing and hearing. So as we enter the now, we become more aware of our surroundings. It's the first step into the now. And now, when you do that, and let's do that now, just not thinking I'm going to practice now, not just become more aware of your surroundings. It's no practice, and it's not a doing. It's an awareness arises of like this room, the people in this room, the man sitting on the chair talking, the lights, beautiful arrangement there, and that is the space of now. So so what the word to use is you acknowledge what is, and close to acknowledging, you go a little bit deeper. You appreciate what is. What before you probably overlooked completely. And that's already a wonderful thing. And there are some people who are not yet ready to go any deeper than that, and that's fine. It's enough to just go 2 steps into the now. Well, let's call it 3. People like the idea of steps. Let's call it step 1, you become more aware of your surroundings. Step 2, you acknowledge. And with the acknowledgement comes a sense of the goodness of the ways in which life manifests continuously around you. There is an aliveness in everything. Even in the middle of a city, you might say, oh, I prefer the forest or the beach or the mountains. But even in the middle of the city, whatever happens, all the movements in the middle of the city are manifestations of life. Life manifesting as human beings running around, as cars, as houses, buildings, and noise, and so on. And there's also something there that is fine. It's an acknowledgement of life. And then comes an appreciation. Oh, you might see something that you before had not appreciated. The sky, for example. How many times are you aware of the sky? And say, oh, and it's beautiful. And even a cloudy sky, there's always this light filtering through the clouds. Now, you might notice when you become aware of what I call the surface of now, which are the sensory perceptions that reveal the world to you, already a shift in consciousness happens, because now you're not thinking as much. You cannot be very much aware of sense perception, really be looking at the sky, or at a tree, or a flower, or a street scene, and be thinking a lot. You have to be really there as the presence. For example, now. So you simply acknowledge the totality of this room. And that's beautiful. And then you go a little deeper still. The next step takes you deeper. Then you can ask yourself, what else is there to the now apart from the things that arise in my sense perception? What else is there? Is there anything else? Is that what the now is? What appears in the now? No. It's what appears in the now, but it's not yet the now. So to become aware of the present moment, to become aware of sense perceptions is an important step, and some people are so out of touch with their surroundings, they are never where they are. They are in the stream of their thinking, with only enough attention not to bump into things. But that's all the attention they give. They can maneuver their way through furniture or the streets, but most of their attention is on the stream of thinking. A lot of it, by the way, useless, you might have noticed, and a lot of that negative too. Critical, complaining, having an issue with this or that, thinking about an unpleasant person yesterday or 10 years ago, and thinking what might go wrong tomorrow or tonight. And all kinds of, it takes you, that consciousness is continuously being absorbed by thinking. And people are in the grip of the stream of thinking. It pulls you along, amplified these days by the digital gadgets. We might be talking about that a little later. The grip of compulsive thinking, where one thing after another arises in your mind and you identify with everything that comes into your mind. Amplified, as I said, by the digital stuff, which want your attention. This is important. Another email coming in. A text message. It must be important. Somebody just posted something on Facebook. And you see a photo of a dinner plate, having dinner and such. And of course, then you have to reply. You say, cool, that's great. And that absorbs all your attention, is continuously being absorbed. It was bad enough before the digital things, but now it gets amplified. More stuff in your mind. More stuff. And you're drowning in stuff. And I'm not meaning physical stuff. Some people also drown in physical stuff. But you're drowning in mental stuff. One thought after another, one text message after another, one Facebook posting after another, one unpleasant memory or anxious thought after another, one complaint after another about other people, what they did and failed to do and should have done but didn't do. But so there's no end to the stuff, and you are missing the present moment. Your attention is absorbed by useless and compulsive thinking. And can you imagine living like that for 10, 20, 30, 40 years? What that does to your habitual state of consciousness and you as a person. What kind of person does that state of consciousness produce? Anxious, angry, whatever the habitual state is, continuously dissatisfied, continuously needing desperately the next thing, which it's never enough. So this is what we're getting out of. Just wanted to show you a little illustration of the normal state. So now we go back into the present moment, and as you become more aware of your sense perceptions, your alertness, and when I say alertness, don't let that be just a conceptual thing. Alertness needs to be something that you can only know what alert awareness is by experiencing alert awareness. You cannot understand conceptually what alert awareness is. And everybody here, I would say, knows already and can verify in their own experience the difference between being absorbed in being identified with a voice in your head, which is habitual compulsive thinking, and being in a state of alert awareness, which looks like this. You don't have to look like that. I'm acting. I just wanted to give a visual representation of it. As you may notice, suddenly, this is called. Now, by the way, there's been a lot of talk about mindfulness here. I just wanted to mention I never use the word mindfulness except when I explain why I don't use it. There's nothing wrong with mindfulness, it's just that my preference is to call it presence. Reason being, to me, mindfulness implies that your mind is full, and we don't want that. So, but if you're very welcome to use, it's perfectly fine to use that word. It's just that my preference is presence. So what arises here is presence. When you become aware of your sense perceptions, there needs to be less thinking and more presence. So thinking subsides with that alertness that arises, and don't let it just be words now as I speak. You can verify in yourself that there can be a subtle shift from being involved in thinking into suddenly being fully here with your attention. So a little thought now, because you can't be fully aware and be thinking. Now the next step down into the now is, as you become more aware of your sense perceptions, you may also sense the simple but beautiful fact that you are alive. And how do you sense that? That sometimes comes naturally as thinking subsides somewhat, alertness remains, and you can feel that there's an aliveness pervading your entire body. Subtle, somewhere, but you can sense that in your arms, your legs, your feet, there is an aliveness. And that can become part of your experience of the now. So now you begin to be present, what we could call present within and present without. So you can sense your own aliveness. If you can't sense it, ask yourself, for those few people here, probably very few who cannot sense the inner energy field of the body, what I call the inner body, I ask sometimes, if you close your eyes, hold your hands like this, and ask yourself, how can I know without looking or moving my hands whether my hands are still there? It's a funny question. How can I know without looking at my hands or moving my hands or touching anything? How can I know that my hands are still there? And at that moment, you cannot get a conceptual answer for that. You can only get an experiential answer by suddenly experiencing an aliveness inside your hands. Your attention has moved from thinking, has disengaged from the movement of thought, and is flowing into your hands. And in the same way, if you can feel your hands, you can feel your feet at the same time. And you can feel the entire body as a subtle energy field. And that's a lovely place to be. And that you begin to be more rooted in the now. And you are present within and without. Being in the body, I call that sometimes an anchor for staying present. It can be helpful because the mind is the egoic mind, the unconscious mind is very clever, and if you don't, especially as you begin to practice presence, if you don't have an anchor for the present moment, the mind will very quickly come in with a thought. And that thought could be anything, but it will claim to be extraordinarily important. And it will say, follow me. You need to think about this. This requires your immediate attention at 3:30 in the morning in bed. And that thought, of course, may proliferate into other thoughts. Anxious thoughts, regretful thoughts. What about my whole life? I have to work out my life. It's all been useless. What have I done with my life? What about my life? What is my life? It's a mental construct that you call my life, and you miss the actual life in the present moment. But so you need to know that your thought it's very seductive and hypnotic, and it will come in and grab your attention again if you don't know what it's doing. But if you know that this is what it's doing, then you can say, oh, not just say it, you can just be aware that there's another thought that wants to come in. And at that moment, when there's an awareness, you don't have to follow the thought. You can just allow it to pass through your mind, and then it's gone again. And then you can say, my choice is to have my attention in the body, and you don't even have to verbalize that. The choice comes, you know that this is your choice, and then you're no longer suffering from an unpleasant, sleepless night. You're actually having a wonderful meditation and not asking that this moment should be any different from the way it is. And you sense the aliveness in your energy field. That's your life. And the present moment, the aliveness of the present moment. And then perhaps, and now, we can go even deeper. Sense perceptions,